This is Future Sense Now, where we explore the landscape and byways of our shared futures. Future Sense Now is brought to you by the Futures Forum. Stay tuned for a journey to the future.
Greetings and salutations. We are celebrating UN International Day for Women and Girls in Science. And I'm having conversations with people I know from around the world who are working in this space. Right now, I'm going to speak with Enanga Dezafale, who is certainly a leader in the space community and operational in many different organizations. And we'll just jump right in with our 5 questions, beginning with our vision. So, Miss Enanga Dezafale, let's begin with the question is the vision of how can organizations accelerate the participation and leadership of women and girls in science and engineering and emerging fields such as space and sustainability?
Thank you for that question. One of the things that I think about is I really focus on that word sustainability. Myself, you mentioned that I'm involved in a number of organizations that are either aerospace focused, such as NSB's Aerospace SIG or AIAA, and then also with SWE. And from a sustainability standpoint, technology is moving very fast. The missions that we're focusing on when we're looking at what should be the future space missions, how technology is supporting people on Earth. And I believe the most important thing is making sure people have that shared understanding of how space technology really does impact life on Earth. It's not only that exploration. So when we talk about that vision and really getting participation, the first step that I think most organizations should really focus on is how are we telling the story about space? How are we sharing how technology is changing lives on Earth and helping solve really tough problems? The next major thing, after we build that shared understanding of how space technology is supporting life on Earth and advancing our capabilities, we need to think about what are some of the key skills that are necessary to bring the next generation along. One of the things I focus a lot on is this notion of experiential learning. So within NSB Aerospace SIG, it's an organization very much so focused on aerospace outreach, space outreach, really getting kids, adults, all excited about the technology of space and doing critical projects that help you learn about the growth of space. Through these different experiential learning projects, you have the opportunity to allow individuals to get that hands-on project-based knowledge on why certain space applications are important, how to build out applications. I've been a part of projects such as CubeSats, where we are teaching kids about CubeSat technology and how can CubeSats be used to understand different problems, solve problems, and we've done different CubeSat missions. Right now, I'm a part of an organization called Fire Rockets that is teaching kids about rocketry and, what are some of the different aerodynamic principles. And all of these different things spark that curiosity. And when you spark that curiosity, then you have an opportunity, then you put a person in a position to really say, hey, this is something interesting. I know how it's important to solving problems on Earth. And then you could start to build in some of the traditional mentorship programs that are really getting people interested in the whole concept of space. Organizations that I'm a part of, and organizations like the Futures Forum, I think it's very important to mentor students, but also sponsor those students into getting opportunities where they have that experiential learning, where they are seeing how different engineering application, that's the space I focus on, can have a positive impact on space.
All right. So you, as I said, for those of people who are listening, so NSB is the National Society of Black Engineers, and SWE is the Society of Women Engineers. And and Ms. Fale occupies leadership positions in both organizations. So it means that you have a particular philosophy around service and community service and development. And how does that philosophy shape then your approach to empowering young women in particular in STEM and building their confidence, resilience, and leadership capacity?
Yes, most definitely. One of the things that happens with any individual, and women and girls, is whenever you have a community that is interested in something that you are interested in, that is cultivating that knowledge, is cultivating that curiosity, it acts as a catalyst to inspire others. And so one of the things that I like to do is, when you look at whatever community you're in, how can you create a safe space where people can learn and people can explore? So when we talk about what does it mean to build confidence, to build resilience, it means creating scenarios where people can explore different topics and stretch their technical depth and get positive reinforcing feedback on how they can improve or where they've done well. And that's where you see people may falter, is what is the type of community that we're shaping around individuals to really push forward that interest. It's not just, only having a positive pep talk. It's also what are the different structural mechanisms you put in place in terms of, you're going to have a mentoring program. That's what these organizations offer. You're going to have different materials or tools where people get to practice and learn. And then you're going to have a feedback loop that's giving them feedback on how they can run their course differently. And that's how you build resilience. And that's how you start to build self-leadership and really driving your interest down a particular area.
So then let's talk about barriers. Again, you're active in many organizations, so you're probably seen a gamut. What are some of the biggest barriers you think facing girls today, then, given all the opportunities that are out there, right, to pursue these careers in science? And how are the organizations that you're working with, at least some of them, taking steps to remove those barriers?
Okay, I think the biggest barrier is understanding that there is opportunity, is understanding the landscape. Information is key. We talk about data. I didn't coin this term. People say data is the new gold, and data is knowledge. There's a lot of things happening. With space policy changing, different directions that organizations are taking, different technical priorities. Really understanding that landscape, some of the technical roadmaps, the policy roadmaps, how all those things impact your community is what I would say is the major gap. When you understand exactly the landscape to which you live in and the different decision makers and how decisions are being made, I think that is the first major barrier. So when you have organizations that are laser focused on understanding that a particular area, understanding the space market, understanding how it's growing and changing, and then readily provide that information to their members, that's an opportunity to level set engagement and give people an opportunity to figure out how they want to navigate that space. I'll give a prime example. One of the things that I've done is work with organizations to do what's called the state of aerospace. And what we talk about the state of aerospace, we really go over what are some of the different technological advances happening and why. Why is this important to your community? Why do we need to care about space junk, right? And how could that impact us? And when people see the plethora of things that different space technology impacts their daily life and their community, that opens their eyes. And so knowledge is that first thing. The next major thing is who's in these different spaces doing these jobs? Can we get people who are willing to share their story, share their experience? If you don't have someone that's willing to say how I got from point A to point B, you don't have a roadmap. And not saying that someone has to give you a direct roadmap, but there's opportunities to really provide that mentorship where people are sharing their story. And so one of the major things I really like is when organizations such as yours do different tech talks, or where people are just really sharing their story, giving people an opportunity to learn more. And obviously, a big thing is that there across communities, there's variances in access, right? So some educational experiential learning opportunities come at a higher cost than others. And so organizations can help bridge that cost. I remember when we were rolling out the CubeSat project with NSBE, we had a team in New Jersey and a team external to the US. And then these were two groups of teams learning about space technology. One team, we set them up to learn using more materials from the area, cardboard. Others were using CAD. And so one of the things you need to think about is how can you make these different outreach projects that you're doing use cost-effective materials, because those are some of the things that are really important depending upon what access to means that you have. And so these are some of the things that I think are really, really critical. Is, one, like I said before, level setting on the knowledge. What is the landscape that we're all working on? To really kind of help build that confidence. Hey, I know what's going on in this space, and then you can start to bring in people who are sharing their story, provide that experiential learning, but also be very creative and innovative when you're coming up with these projects, so that they sometimes are not so heavily technology dependent, depending on what access a particular community has access to.
Fabulous. So let's talk a little bit about the issue of the future we're trying to create. Why is it important then that women and girls in particular play a role in space science and technology, especially as we consider the need to support peaceful uses of outer space and, back to your point, sustainable development in Earth?
Yeah, so my background, I have a background in systems engineering, and one of the things that we talk about is when you're looking at, you can think of space, our future missions, as this big system. We have these big social systems that is being developed, right? And one of the things in systems engineering is really important is this whole concept of use cases. Who's going to be using the space technology? Who's going to be, and what are those user needs? What are some of those use cases? And so that's why it's very important that women, men, people from many different walks of life are involved inside of really looking at what is the future of space, because everybody has different use cases, right? There may be different needs that you may find out from somebody who has a different experience. If you kind of look at things from like even a woman's health perspective, and you're looking at space travel, there's differences. And so you need those different perspectives to have those different use cases to help frame the problem on how do we achieve a particular space mission? How do we make sure that we can bring this person along or engage in this type of research? What are some of the things that we're missing? I remember a few years ago, there was a request for comment from OSTP, because we were not, they're looking at the International Space Station and the retirement of that of the International Space Station. And they said, what should be some of the things that we're researching if we were to repurpose the station, right? And so the request went out to, to everybody. And when I brought this to the organizations I was a part of, there was a lot of good discussion around, hey, can this be a small business incubator? Can this focus on some health issues that are of interest to a particular region? Can we explore this use case that we've been talking about in my community? And so you get really cool opportunities and ideas on what you can research and how you can make a better space community when you engage people from that systems perspective. And so when we talk about why it is important for people like us to be a part of building a sustainable future in space, it is because we bring different use cases that help, fine tune the mission and fine tune the whole system that we are building out there.
Yep. And so finally, my question would be, what message then on today, as we celebrate the UN International Day of Women and Girls in Science, would you share with young girls around the world, maybe somebody who is a third of your age, just beginning elementary school, perhaps high school, dreams of becoming scientists, engineers, or even an astronaut? And what sort of global partnerships, given that you're working with so many organizations, what kind of partnerships do you think you'd like to see come up to help make dreams of the next generation possible?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the first thing I always tell people is your experience is your currency. I don't want anybody to ever discredit their experience. No matter what community, what experience you come from, it is your currency to help really understand future problems. And so something that you think that you're learning today may be that very thing that alters your course later on. So when I say that your experience is your currency, in terms of Dr. Nelson's question about different organizations, there's different organizations that you can make a part of your experience to help really fine tune your pursuit of a career in space. I'm a part of the Society of Women Engineers, as you mentioned before. That's a great organization if you're looking to have access to women globally who are interested in engineering. There are tons of engagement opportunities that you can have from a technical and leadership perspective. I also very highly recommend NESB Aerospace SIG. This organization is heavily focused on positioning people to have space related projects. So you're getting that hands-on learning with projects and also understanding the state of aerospace. So then you're building your technical depth and awareness. If you want to also kind of get engaged in just little group where you get to learn more about a particular technology, I encourage people to get involved in like a rocket club. I'm a part of the Rocketry Fire Rockets Challenge, and that has really helped introduce people to aerodynamics and focus on launching model rockets. Also supporting the Futures Forum. This year, the Futures Forum, launched the first ever space analog in East Africa. And so that's where you get to test out those use cases that I was mentioning before and looking at what it's going to take to do different space missions. And then if you have an idea, you can reach out to one of these organizations. You can reach out to anybody working in this space and just ask them questions about how they got where they got and why they chose a particular path. I would say it doesn't hurt to ask the question, what could happen? Somebody could say, no, thank you, but at least you've tried. Because at the end of the day, all this information that you're gathering, all these relationships that you are forming are shaping your experience. And that experience is your currency that's going to open doors for really getting engaged in future space sustainability missions and policy and engineering design in the future.
Thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me today, Mrs. Ananga Daisy Falle. She is the director of the Nesby Aerospace Special Interest Group. She's on the board of Society for Women Engineers, and as you heard, her latest junket, and this is not her job, okay? This is just her volunteer service, and I'm so grateful that you are part of the world that we live in, helping to create, indeed, space for all. Thank you, folks. Until next time.
You have been listening to Future Sense Now, brought to you by the Futures Forum. For more, please visit www.thefuturesforum.org. Thank you for listening. Spread the word. Share the future.